Welcome to ACP, the Amazon Connect podcast. This is the show that focuses on Amazon Connect and related technologies. I'm your host, Tom Morgan, and I'm joined as usual by my co-host, AWS Solution Architect and Contact Center Consultant, Alex Baker. Find out more about Cloud Interact by visiting us at cloudinteract.io. It's time for another ACP, and we are live in the studio, and I'm joined by Alex in person. Alex, great to see you again.
Hi, Tom. Good to see you. Yeah, I feel like we haven't actually had the chance to meet up much lately. It's been a bit of a crazy few weeks over what is now the summer holidays.
Summer period where everything is supposed to slow down, but somehow things are speeding up.
Yes.
But this is an interesting one this week, because this week we're going to be looking ahead. We're going to be looking ahead to December, and specifically to reInvent, which is AWS's annual premier learning event. So we're going to dig into what it is, why it's relevant, where it is, what's happening, whether you should attend, and the sort of experience that you can have there. So before we do any of that, though, I know you've got some news items to cover off to keep everybody updated. So go for it.
Yeah, definitely. This is going to go out slightly after some of these have been released, but just as an encouragement to everyone to go and take a look at the Amazon Connect release notes primarily, and also subscribe to things like AWS blogs and just keep an eye on what's going on. A couple of things just to pull out of the release notes. So we've got some improvements around searching for certain resources, which is quite welcome. So it used to be that the search was fairly kind of prescriptive in that you had to know exactly what kind of the start of the object name was that you were looking for. Now it's introduced free text type ahead search, so you can start typing Tom or Alex within your users, and even if that's sort of not at the start, or that's not contained within the username, it should come up if it's sort of somewhere within the object naming. Yep. And that's true for users, also for queues, hours of operation, routing profiles, and prompts as well. So I think that's quite a nice little, not probably the most high profile and maybe not shouted about. It's not sort of sexy in Gen AI or anything, but super useful in terms of
quality of life improvements for supervisors and people just trying to find stuff. And
yeah, definitely. I love that AWS do continue to release those little things that make your life easier.
Cool.
The next one is sort of Gen AI and sexy, however. So it's an enhancement to the Gen AI summaries. We had that within Contact Lens. So if you were looking at a contact, listening to the recording within the sort of detailed view in Contact Lens, you would get the Gen AI summary. That is now also present in the agent's view within seconds after the end of a call.
Oh, that's nice. So that's super useful.
Great for helping them with their wrap up.
Yeah.
Hopefully some potential reduction in after call work and improving quality of life for the agent. We've also got some new dashboards and metrics for outbound campaigns. Previously, most of the metrics around that were in Pinpoint, so a little bit kind of disconnected from all of your historical and real-time reporting in Connect itself. So yeah, it's all kind of now within the reports and dashboards section. You've got a section on outbound campaigns, which is nice. The final one to mention, download of screen recordings is now available. So you've always been able to, been able to download the call recording audio. Screen recordings came in over the last probably year to 18 months, something like that. Mm-hmm. But up until now, you can download them. So it's just useful in case you want to do anything extra.
That's good. Good for training or anything like that, I suppose, as well. Evaluation or feedback.
Yeah, maybe I know we've got customers that periodically share things like call recordings with their own clients just to discuss the quality and how well they're serving their own clients' needs.
Nice. That's good. It is, as you said earlier, it is nice to see that constant innovation in the platform, even in the, like you say, the slightly boring bits, like the UI, the reports, that kind of stuff, just gradually making it better over time. So that's good to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that kind of thing doesn't get left behind. because I'm sure that AWS are spending lots of time on the exciting cutting edge stuff,
Mm.
but there are still things within the platform that they clearly agree are worth improving, and that search one's a great example. It's sort of not a massive thing, but if you use Connect reasonably frequently, it's something that you did notice, and probably a lot of people agreed it was due for a bit of a revamp.
Nice. So that's all good. And I guess all of those things, by the time you hear this, you'll be able to find them in your Connect instance. Or if you don't, they'll be coming very soon, I would imagine. So that's cool. So let's talk about reInvent. So first of all, other than it being a ginormous learning event, what is it in terms of sort of logistics and specifics? Because it's an in-person event, right?
Yeah, it is. And I suppose I should caveat this heavily with I haven't actually been in person.
Not yet.
Not yet, no. If Simon, our CEO, is listening, Simon, Tom and we're definitely up for going this year.
We'll definitely do an episode. That's the that's the give and the
That's
get.
the
Yeah.
deal. I did enjoy during COVID. I guess it was end of 2021. They did what I thought was a great job of putting on a sort of virtual version of reInvent. So lots of sessions that you could attend virtually, sort of more than usual. Because I think when it is an in-person event, you get things like the keynotes and certain sessions that are available away from the event, but not all of the different sort of breakout sessions. So yeah, it was quite nice, that one. They did do, I thought, a great job of making it virtual for that 2021 event. It's like you say, it's kind of AWS's flagship learning event, conference, whatever you want to call it. It's held annually in Las Vegas. It is massive, so it's
So you say it's massive, and I didn't appreciate quite how massive it was, because you can look at the numbers and that's fine. So I've been to conferences in Vegas before, and they're always big because Vegas is a big place. But I didn't realize until I looked down the list of approved hotels, they're taking over Vegas. Like it is another level massive. Like I in a way I hadn't really appreciated, because I went to a conference in Vegas. It was big, but it was one of a billion conferences happening. Like this feels like the city shuts down.
Yeah, and it feels like you maybe want to plan where you stay according to where some of the sessions are, and it sounds like you're probably going to be taking advantage of your sort of free shuttle buses between some of the hotels.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the hotel, if you've not been to Vegas, looking at the hotels, they all look like they're roughly in the same place. There's this long strip of hotels, and it's probably like maybe 40, 50 minutes to walk from one end to the other, right? But it's also very hot sometimes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people. A lot of the hotels are joined together, weirdly. So you can actually do most of that walking inside under aircon if you want to. But yeah, I think there's maybe like 15, 20 listed hotels that AWS have deals with, and 5 or 6 of them are like actual places where things are happening. So yeah, it's big. And that is the planning. We should come on to that in a bit, actually, but planning is imperative if you're attending in person for a big conference like this. Otherwise you will spend your whole day traveling between sessions and being grumpy that you're missing stuff. Yeah. But that's also the reality of those, there's 500 and something sessions. You're not going to go to all of them, nor should you.
It probably is a reality that you're not likely to make every single one that you want to make.
Yeah, and planning is really important, but not just planning, how many sessions can I cram into my 24 hours, times 5 days. It's actually, you need to make some time. You can't take on that amount of content either. So you need to prioritize what you want to go to versus what you can get on demand when you're back. Like I'll quite often, it depends what it is, but like the keynotes, I'll quite often miss them because I know I can always watch them on the plane home. And probably, unless I want to be in that room with that person, breathing their aircon, which is legitimately a good reason to go to, a keynote, to see somebody in person that you've idolized or you really respect. But if you're going to be in an overflow room, just watch it later, prioritize that time for yourself, for networking, for some of the other things we're going to talk through. But yeah, planning is important.
Yeah, it's a good tip. And I guess on the keynotes, typically you get some of the really big senior people in AWS deliver some keynotes. So I guess possibly Matt Garman, the CEO or MD of AWS. I always find Werner Vogels, the CTO of AWS. He normally has some quite inspiring stuff to talk about in his keynote. And then I imagine there'll be quite a big AI focus. If there isn't an AI specific keynote, I'd almost be surprised, but I'm sure it will feature heavily in a lot of the keynotes.
Yeah, the nice thing about the reInvent website at the moment is they've split it by topics, so you can go and see like very high level, go and look at like generative AI, and it will call out the important, like the big learning sessions, the key workshops that they think are really important, and some boot camps and stuff like that. So you can kind of like plan your trip around, yeah, like that type of topic versus, anything else, rather than just sort of searching through the session catalog.
And I think you can select like almost a learning track or interest track. So if you have AI as a particular topic of interest, you can tailor your own track around it, and it will select and suggest different sessions for you to go to.
Yes. And that might be a good time for us actually to jump into some of those sessions and talk about session content, and then we'll come back out again and talk about all the other stuff that isn't sessions and session content. Because looking through the list, and the thing to remember is this is across all of AWS. So depending on your involvement with AWS, the wider AWS outside of Amazon Connect, you may care more or less about some of these things, but probably there's whole sections of this that you don't care about at all, and that's fine. You can't be across all of AWS, but there are a bunch of Amazon Connect specific sessions. So you could, and again, this is a little bit about, we'll come into it in a minute about like, what sort of your experience you want to have. But like if we focus at the moment on sort of getting up to date with the latest information, then there are sessions around Amazon Connect specifically. And yeah, it's to do with AI as well. I'm looking particularly at like Biz 203, what's next in contact centers with Amazon Connect and generative AI. That looks to be one of those sessions. It's like it's a breakout session. I feel like it's one of those ones where the goal is to bring everybody up to date with what's happened in the last 12 months and then look forward maybe 3 to 6 months as well. So if you're interested in this space, but you're not living and breathing it on every single like release announcement as it's happening. So I'm thinking like IT leaders, people like that. Those are good sessions to just kind of get up to speed quickly.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And looking into that Biz 203 session that you highlighted, we can see that they also give an indication of roles to attend and also a level that it's pitched at. So that particular one is level 200, so intermediate.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got a couple of the other ones look like they're more technical. We've got the one around no-code customer engagement design. That's level 300 advanced, so you can get a feel for what will be most applicable to your own needs.
And that's definitely, I think, another good reason for attending, right, is to get some really deep dive into something and learn some new stuff. And if that's your aim, is to learn new things, then absolutely, I think look at the workshops, look at I think they call them builder labs or builder sessions.
Yeah, really interesting looking one. Yeah. Crafting AI-powered SMS conversations with Amazon Pinpoint, and that's a hands-on builders session. So I imagine that will probably be some of the Connect specialist SAs delivering that one. It will be really interactive. You'll go in and get hands-on and actually learn how to build something really cool.
What I've noticed, I'm not sure this is official advice, if the description of the session ends with "you must bring your laptop to participate," I would expect it to be a fairly involved deep dive where you're doing some work. You're not just sitting back and being presented to. I think the plan is you're going to build something on your tenant. So again, I would say, yes, bring a laptop, make sure, it works, make sure you got all your adapters, but also I would extend that out to make sure you've got a well-funded environment ready to go, like an AWS environment that stood up. You've got a credit card behind it. Not suggesting you spend thousands of dollars on it, but you want to be able to play with this stuff. So you want to be able to build stuff out and you want to be able to walk away and take it back with you, but take it back to the office and show people. So having it built out on your environment would be a really handy thing to do if you could do it at the time.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's interesting looking at the ratio of most of the Connect sessions are ones that you must bring your laptop to participate. So
there's a lot of workshops, right?
Yeah. There's a single, what looks like a single at the moment. I'm sure they'll release some more, but a single one at that kind of intermediate level. But then all the rest are those kind of deeper dive ones. It looks great for people like us who can go and geek out around the product and what you can do with it.
Yeah. The other thing that I thought was really interesting that's kind of related to what definitely is related to Amazon Connect, but might not have kind of jumped out if you're searching for it, is a boot camp around safeguarding workloads and cybersecurity in the Gen AI landscape. that feels like a really important one. Like if you're looking after big contact centers, understanding how these big changes, the very quick changes in generative AI, what they mean for, cybersecurity challenges. So a boot camp like that really kind of dips you in right at the deep end with the detail, and it's a really good opportunity to hear and work with like experts in the field and people who really understand what's going on and what you can do, like, what practical steps you can take to sort of help your organization.
Yeah, so it's quite a hot topic at the moment, isn't it? There was it the Patagonia one that was in the news around effectively they're being sued for sort of sharing customers' data, but by means of a third-party vendor taking that information and using it to train their Gen AI models.
Yes, yeah. So I feel like there's a couple of things you could do. If you know you're already going, then absolutely the session catalog is open now. So you should be looking through it, understanding what's there and figuring out like what you want to look at, what makes sense. And I think also, yes, focus on the Amazon Connect stuff if that's your specialism. If you can, I would say it's also worth widening your search a little bit. I find these conferences are a really good way of just getting up to speed with an adjacent piece of technology that you wouldn't necessarily have got involved with. So that might be some networking stuff, maybe it might be, if you're more of a developer, it might be some more of the developer focused stuff, either around compute or maybe Kubernetes, or like you pick your thing, right, that is out there, but you just want to quickly upskill, then you can go and do that 200 level session. You can quite quickly get up to speed on quite a lot of things just by going to find their 200 catch-up session, I like to call it, that presentation of like their world of last 12 months, next 6 months, as a good way of getting a rounded out, knowledge about lots of different things.
Yeah, definitely. And just in some of the peripheral services at Bedrock, for example, it looks like there's some other great sessions around building generative AI applications using Bedrock.
Yeah, Bedrock's a great example, and actually probably all of that AI section, because more and more, that's what we're doing at the moment, isn't it? Is bringing, understanding how we can bring some of these new AI capabilities to bear, but they don't all necessarily live inside Amazon Connect. They are things that, like you say, live in Bedrock and live in some of these other AWS services. So understanding what's happening in Bedrock and how that can benefit what you're doing in the Connect world, I think super valuable.
Yeah, agreed. And one other thing, just to pull up, looking at the catalog, there's loads going on around certification and exam prep. I don't think there's the opportunity to actually take the exam while you're there, but what a great opportunity to go and sit in with a whole load of like-minded people that are maybe all studying for their solutions architect associate exam. Go and get some insight from the experts who are presenting the sessions, talk to some other people that are in the same boat and are just getting ready for the exam, and hopefully kind of really focus on taking in all that knowledge and getting ready to sit the exam when you get home.
Yeah, definitely. And actually that speaks a bit to some of the value of these in-person conferences. And I would say if you are going in person, don't plan to just go to the sessions and go away again. I think you're missing a lot of the value of an in-person conference if you do that. So there are the sessions and there's session content. And what that means for you in person is the ability to put your hand up and ask questions. Please do that if you're in person. If you don't ask questions in a session, you're missing out in a way. Like everybody can watch a live stream, but you can't. It's very often that you can't ask questions, or your questions are badly interpreted. If you're there, you can stick your hand up and actually ask your question. You can go and talk to the speaker afterwards. You can talk to the other people in the room afterwards. So there's all of that. But then there's also these other things that are happening. So like there's an entire expo hall. And a lot of people skip the expo hall, but I think they're super valuable because you can go and talk to people it's a very good way to talk to obviously partner companies and people that are there, but you can ask them questions, you can give them feedback, but also you just talk to people. Like if you're comfortable talking to people, and I know we're British, we're quite reserved, we don't like talking to people, but it's all right because it's being held in America, and in America they're much more happy to talk to you, right? So actually you fall into this, I'll just talk to anyone because they're quite nice and they will talk back. And so like reserved me in the UK is much less reserved in the US which is a weird thing, isn't it? Yeah. But I don't, you're surrounded by it. And so you kind of pick it up.
Yeah.
So actually you just go around talking to people and you find out so much stuff, So I think that's a very valuable, that whole networking side of things is very useful.
Yeah. I always think those expo hall type things are really interesting as a bit of a contrast to the big keynote sessions, just going and having a stroll around and taking it in, seeing what new things there are to look at, and because it's a global event, maybe there's some other Connect partners or people that are using Connect that you might bump into that you've not been aware of. It's great to kind of increase your exposure to what's going on across the world.
Yeah, definitely. Another area I just want to highlight that's not like technically sessions are these innovation talks. I thought these were interesting because they're not about necessarily technical content. They're more about like really big topics in our world. So generative AI, cloud ops, network, content delivery, emerging tech. So, but they're from leaders in the space, AWS experts. There'll be VPs and directors of these particular areas. So again, really good for getting a feel kind of for what AWS are thinking in this space, and just kind of just resources, networking, knowledge sharing, ideas. So I think they're worth making time for if you can as well, and catching those. I do think they are going to be available on demand though. So you said this earlier, a lot of the sessions won't be. I think the keynote will be, or the keynotes will be, and so will the innovation talks apparently. But a lot of it, because it's so interactive, like the workshops, the breakout sessions, those builder sessions, they're not going to be, because they're designed to be super interactive. So the value for them is you being in the room.
Yeah. And the value for you is going and actually participating, and back to the bring your laptop thing. You will actually be doing some stuff and building some cool things.
Yes. Yeah. And there is a party as well, I think, towards the end. They call it Replay. I don't know very much about it. It's exactly what you think it is. It's a whole bunch of tech geeks who don't normally go to these kind of things, awkwardly standing around with food and drink and live music, but it's quite a good laugh. Like I feel like it's going to be one of those. But if you've made the most out of networking in the previous days, actually, it's a really good way to carry on those conversations as well, and just have some time to talk to people. So use it like a networking event. I think I don't know. Yeah. Or if you're going, obviously, as a group of people, it's a good chance to unwind as well. Yeah.
Sounds like there'll be plenty of opportunity for beers in the bar after a long day of interactive sessions.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to just mention, so I was going to move on to perhaps some hopes for announcements that might come out, but some significant releases from last year, just to give everyone an idea of, the level of kind of high profile announcements that are made. And these ones are just Connect, so there are a whole host of other ones related to the wider AWS services. But last year we had general availability of Amazon Q in Connect. We had the preview of generative AI powered post contact summarization, which we mentioned earlier. That was the part that's now surfaced to the agent sort of immediately after the call. We had some stuff around customer profiles and using Gen AI to sort of augment the data mapping in Connect profiles. There were some Lex-based generative AI-powered capabilities, so around assisted slot resolution, utterance generation. There was the release of the SMS channel, generally available. We had the in-app web and video calling, which I think back in episode maybe 2 or 3 we touched on.
You forget all that stuff was just announced in the last 12 months. Yeah.
There's the no-code guides UI builder, conversational analytics, real-time for chat. And then there was the preview of the Connect Analytics Data Lake, which we've been kind of leveraging quite a lot for some of our reporting pipelines.
Yeah.
So, some pretty big, pretty high-profile announcements.
And that reminds me, actually, that big companies with big events like to hold back announcements for these type of big events. So like, right now, they're sitting on a bunch of stuff they want to announce at Connect. So even if you don't attend Connect, even if you don't watch any of the on-demand sessions, just know that around about that time, so we're talking December the 2nd to the 6th, there's going to be big announcements in Amazon Connect. We're fairly sure. Like, we know that AWS like to hold things back, an announcement at these big events. So look out for them, because that's likely where they're gonna come. And we'll cover them nearer the time as it happens as well. Yeah, because it does sound like, based on certainly last year, it sounds like there's a bunch of stuff coming.
Yeah, it's probably worth an immediate follow-up
Mm.
podcast after the reInvent announcements, just to do a roundup of those.
Yeah, definitely. Anything that you want to guess? This is a dangerous game. Anything you want to guess they're gonna do?
It is a dangerous game. I don't know. I guess it sounds like maybe extra channels supported is
Okay.
a possibility.
Yeah.
I would personally love to see additional API support, just as
Mm.
much as possible.
Mhm.
It would
Yep.
be great, but specifically around forecasting, capacity
Yeah.
planning, and scheduling.
Yep.
That's when we've been introducing that for customers, we've found that that's kind of held us back a
Mm.
little bit. So that would be a good thing.
Yep.
And then actually around FCS, the forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling, I can see that there's some scope for feature enhancements there. So that was kind of what it's one of the newest additions, I suppose.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll sneak in a bit of Gen AI to that. So similar to how we got the Gen AI summaries and the Gen AI assistance for completing evaluation forms. Maybe there's something similar that might come into FCS.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Possibly also kind of slightly outside of Connect itself. We mentioned Bedrock. Some more integrations around Bedrock.
Yeah.
I think you had a good point around the sort of maybe a trend towards smaller and more tailored LLM.
I think probably following like an industry move. I feel like it would be useful to lean into that kind of like small language models, but also smaller, very scoped use of language models to solve particular problems. So like an easy way to take the Bedrock, like everything that Bedrock is, and scale it right down to, I just want something that's super scoped for like HR policy or something, and here are the documents I want it around, and these are the rules I want it to operate in, like a very contained version of Bedrock, or like that Bedrock experience, if you like, around that. And again, also, I think it would be really nice, what AWS often tries to do is predict where developers are spending all their time, and in aggregate, like us spending a bunch of time tying things together is fine. But that's a lot of developers doing the same thing. So if they can take that pain away, it immediately, makes everything easier for everyone. And one of the things we found is when to use Lex and when to use Bedrock to answer questions. And that's a trade-off between cost, between predictability, between accuracy, all these sort of things. I think tying those together somehow so that it's more something that developers don't have to think about, I think would be really nice.
Yeah, it feels like, because there's the Lex Q&A bot functionality, which it kind of goes some way towards introducing Gen AI and LLMs. Yeah, maybe a more or a deeper integration between the two things. The other one that I think you had mentioned when we were experimenting with a POC around Bedrock, things like just getting it to be a little bit more personable out of the box. You found that you're able to get the Bedrock agent doing some stuff and going off and referring to different sources of information. But then when you just kind of started a conversation naturally, hi, how are you? It kind of fell over and didn't really.
Yeah, it seems to be missing that kind of built-in greeting section that a lot of language models have, or at least the implementation around using them in a kind of chat instance. If you like the chat playground that Bedrock has, like doesn't naturally or immediately have that built into it in a way that I think most people would want. So it's kind of it's those kind of things really, like just making it easier for people to do the things that most people want to do, and building that stuff in, I think would be valuable.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely.
Cool. We should cover the cost quickly, which is $2,099, which is a weirdly specific number. I'm not sure what the $99 gets you. Perhaps it's your badge or something. I don't know, but it's just over a shade over $2,000. But you also have to find your own way there and sleep somewhere. So that doesn't include travel and expense. I think it does include food whilst you're there, by the sound of it. Certainly during the day. And to be honest, there'll be so many events happening in the evening. You could probably eat for free every evening as well if you planned it.
And I guess you can kind of, if you didn't want to book a hotel room, you sort of spend the whole time on the casino floor or something.
You could do that as well. Definitely you can do that for at least 3 days. I found out through trial and error. Yeah, so that's definitely a thing you can do. If you're interested, there is a whole section on the reInvent page that you can copy and paste and send to your boss about why you should go and how to get that approved. It's got bullet points for all the things, all the reasons why it's good for you to attend.
We'll send that over to you shortly, Simon.
Yep. So I think it should be really good. It's nice. I think it's really good that actually coming out of the kind of enforced shutdown of the last couple of years, they are going back to big in-person events. I think we've all come to the conclusion they are still very valuable. And it's really good to get people together and as humans together to network and to meet each other and share ideas. So I think it's really good it is happening. It's bound to be a very big, exciting event. Yeah, and we're going to get a bunch of announcements out of it, and we'll cover them when the time comes. If there's any kind of leaks or rumors up until then, we'll try and cover those as well. You never know. Yeah, sounds like it's going to be a good event.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, we're at time. So whilst Alex and I scheme and plan about reInvent, we're going to leave you to go and bring this episode to an end. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
Be interesting and exciting to see what reInvent 2024 brings. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe in your favourite podcast player. That way you won't miss it. Whilst you're there, we'd love it if you would rate and review us. And as a new podcast, if you have colleagues that you think would benefit from this content, please let them know. To find out more about how Cloud Interact can help you on your contact center journey, visit cloudinteract.io. We're wrapping this call up now, and we'll connect with you next time.